Good, beautiful morning, everybody. Today is a very exciting and interesting day for all of us. And I want to thank those of you that are coming on right now, because this is a very simple and important message. And it's about keeping the truth alive. And I have the energy of Master Jesus with me. And his energy is very non-judgmental in many respects. So I'm going to be blending some of that with my own personal understanding and experiences. And he wanted us to call this event today, Keep the Truth Alive. And this is really important. What is the truth? The truth is a function of thought and idea that elevates and exalts life. That elevates and exalts life. That means that you have regard and respect for all that is, for all beings, trees, people, animals, the water, the fishes, the air. Respect for all things. Now, there's a movie that was just released last week, and it's called The Sound of Freedom. And I have difficulty remembering the title for some reason, and I know why. The Sound of Freedom is based on an organization that we on this channel support. We give 10% of whatever we get in goes to our OUR, our Underground Railroad, which is an organization that works for the liberation of children from the sex slave trade. You've heard it said, that the children are the ones that are closest to God. Children are the ones that are closest to God. They don't have sin. You're not born in sin. Sin is something you acquire. Now, the Sound of Freedom is about children going out and being taken and put into the sex slave trade. And an individual now, a group of individuals that are actively going out and disassembling this sex slave trade. And it's not just the sex slave trade. They market for adrenochrome and many other chemicals and ceremonies and rituals that get applied to these children. And I can't claim to speak directly to the horrors that some of these kids gone through. I can only speak from my own experience, but it's really important that you bring your awareness. There are millions of children that disappear every year. And because it's not happening where you know it to be obvious, you don't think much about it. I went through 7 years of from my experience, very profound sexual abuse at the hands of a stepfather, in fact. And it started when I was age 7. And it didn't just happen to me, it happened to my 2 sisters. But those 7 years were the most difficult and painful years of my life. And they set my life on a course which involved a huge amount of mental and emotional suffering for about 2 decades, 20 years. So my sentence from that experience was 27 years. If you choose to ignore the fact that children are being taken, used ritualistically, sadistically, sexually, if you choose to ignore that, then you're just putting your head in the sand and you're harming yourself in ways that you can't even begin to imagine, to ignore the suffering of others. But that does not mean that we should use the suffering of others as an excuse to harm those perpetuating the suffering, but we certainly have to bring those people that are causing this to accounts and remove them from general civilization, maybe create an entire island for them where they can be put by themselves, amongst themselves. But these children, they need you. They need all of us that love, care, honor, and respect life. And I can tell you firsthand that being abused, being treated as a piece of meat, as a piece of property to be used of used and abused in the way that that person wants to use you and abuse you. And anybody who's gone through spousal abuse or drug abuse, it's the same thing, whether it's drug abuse or alcoholism, or doesn't matter. Abuse is abuse. You're either abusing yourself or somebody's abusing you. These children are going through something, most of them, unimaginable. And I have a small inkling of that, not to the scope that some of these children are going through right now. I mean, ritualistic sacrifices. These things are going on. And you can't continue to ignore it. And we will continue to support this organization to the best of our ability. I hope that you will choose to do the same thing, that you will reach out and start to support this organization so they get more people and resources, because governments are extremely complicit. Governments, your governments are complicit in this industry. Globally, 95% of the governments on this planet are complicit in what's going on. How could millions of children otherwise move around unseen and unheard? It would take a very well-established mechanics and logistics system to be able to do this. And governments have that in place, and you're paying for it. And you can choose to ignore or deny what you hear when someone speaks the truth about what's going on, but then you're just as equally complicit in the denial of the truth as those that are perpetuating the crimes against those children, others. And it's not just children. I mean, most people in regular societies are being abused by unlawful taxation, being abused by governments and leaders that suck off the teat of your hard energy, your time and your effort, and then say there's something wrong with you, that you have to do more for them. You have to do more for them to fix your problems, and yet your problems get bigger. No, I understand. When he asked me to come out and speak on this matter, because I can speak personally to it, to at least a measure of degree that is honest. And if you're sitting here listening to this, you need to take the time to look closely at what your government's doing, and you need to be willing to stand up and say no. Not just governments. It's not just organized crime. Governments are the biggest organized crime syndications on the planet. They steal, they take possession of, they do things that, again, they don't do it on such a scale yet that would be obvious to you until they start doing really crazy stuff, as people like Adolf and Stalin, Marx and Engels and Mao did to human beings because they disagreed with them. And I'm not here to be agreeable today. I'm here to be straightforward, that you have to wake up. You have to share this information. You have to tell people to wake up. Millions of children go missing every year. Many not to be found. And there are going to be those that are going to want to possibly cancel me for saying this. And there are going to be those that are going to want to speak again. Oh, that's not true. Governments take care of you. Really? Really? Trillions of dollars governments take. Where are the good roads and the bridges? And they've created a great welfare system, people to be dependent on them. They haven't promoted independence and freedom. An educational system that's designed to limit your scope and capabilities to a framework that they've created for you. In the meantime, they take and they steal children for their own grandiose and selfish purposes. And if you don't think that's true, I can tell you, the man that assaulted me and my sisters for 7 years, he went on and assaulted others. He ended up spending 2 years in jail, and he suddenly disappeared. Nobody knows where he went. I can only guess. But I want to say this. If you choose to keep your head in the sand about what's going on, then what will eventually come about, when you've so ignored what is wrong to the point that it is so great that you will not have the ability to fight it. It's what happened in Stalinist Russia. Before people knew it, the government had so much control, the average person couldn't fight against it, and over 50 million people died in Stalinist Russia. Tens of millions died under the rule of Nazi Germany. Tens of millions more under Maoist China. By the way, these things are still going on. It's just well hidden. And when you've got a mechanism that controls all the information, or most of the information now, it's very difficult for you to actually hear the truth or know the truth. At the very least, go and see that movie. Go and see the movie, The Sound of Freedom. Enlighten yourself to some degree. Because it's not just happening to children, it's happening to regular people. There are slave organizations in lithium mines and cobalt mines around the world that pay for the technology or mine the technology that run our phones and our computers. Getting paid almost nothing, working in toxic and destructive environments because they can. The governments over there can do that. The organizations can do that. Third world countries have long been the pillaging grounds for the controlling authorities, while they maintain a somewhat pretty face in the Western world. Behind that pretty face of government leaders is a horrible, despicable consciousness harming life globally. There's over 800 US military bases around the planet. There is dozens of Chinese organizations in people's cities, Chinese police stations in overseas cities. Your governments work together as a network. And though they claim to be for democracy, by the way, democracy is not a very safe or healthy word. We should be a Republican constitutional planet, not a democracy. Remember that term. Republican constitutional system. I don't want to go too far away, but again, I've been pressed to do this just to speak from my own personal position, which I don't often do on this platform in this fashion. So I thank you for being understanding and patient, but I'm not going to apologize. When something is wrong, it is wrong. And if you continue to sit back and follow the agendas that are being rolled out from governments, agendas on inclusiveness and tolerance, in a fashion that's created horrendous divisions among the people. What's the phrase? Divide and conquer. And so they create divisions, racial lines that were never there before. Even speaking of something that you disagree with can be difficult. And again, this is like a cacophony of information, but it starts out from that foundational truth. If they can walk away with millions of children every year, about 6 million children disappear every year. Most are never found. Do the research. Don't just take my word for it. I don't have any statistics in front of me to quote to you, but there are certainly authorities that have done the research. If you want to take the statistical information from the movie The Sound of Freedom, there's over $128 billion a year. Maybe it's even more than that in the child sex and trafficking industry. That's just among children. That's not to mention the teenagers and adults that get trafficked, because that's going on too. And the only way such a machine can function is if governments are involved. Look at the amount of surveillance they have around the world, and they cannot find where all these children are. They're lying to you. And you need to wake up. And you need to share this information with other people, that they need to wake up. Because like in Nazi Germany or Stalinist Russia or Maoist China, there came a point where people didn't say anything and it was too late. You watch some of the old footage of Maoist soldiers executing people in the streets by the thousands. Or Germany's ovens in World War II or Stalinists' slave camps. And those are but a few. There's others, Pol Pot, many other government leaders that, for the good of the people, were going to create a utopian society that would liberate you from all responsibility and suffering. Make the rich pay, they say. It's not about the rich. It's about people in positions of authority that believe that their view of the world is greater than the rights and freedoms of all others that they would choose to create policies for. Again, I'm out of my venue when I'm speaking this, but I really felt this was really important today, that we all wake up. And I will take questions. Master Jesus will take questions, but we cannot be afraid of the truth. You've got to keep it alive and be fearless in it. Now, I've gotten one strike on my YouTube channel about 2 years ago when I spoke about the kill temperature of viruses, that if you were to go into a sauna, that the kill temperature of a virus is about 150 degrees Celsius, 150 degrees Fahrenheit, pardon me. And that video was taken down, and I received my first and only strike I've ever received on my YouTube channel. So I have no idea what's going to happen today. But I do know this. What's going to happen for me is I'm not going to ignore the truth. I'm going to keep it alive. I've been asked to keep the truth alive. Now, your governments are also telling you they know what's best for you. They know what type of education you should have. They should know what you should study or not study. They're going to control the flow of information. It's happening here in Canada, where the Trudeau government has passed a law that is going to restrict what you can receive on your internet, in your news feeds. They're going to. It's already passed. It's a law that's been made that the government can now restrict news and information you get. So you don't know, and most of you don't know, but the massive protests going on in France and in Europe. Many of you don't even know about the farmers that have taken over the government in the Netherlands. I believe it's in the Netherlands, because they got sick of the government telling them we don't want you to farm. We don't want you to make farms. We're going to close all your farms down. When the government wants to start controlling your food, they've got you. And if you don't wake up, you're in trouble. I'm telling you, you have to wake up. You all have to wake up. Now, I want to go back to this movement, our Underground Railroad. I supported it the very first time I saw the work that he was doing, organizing these groups to sting down these organizations. But it's not just sex traffickers. It's the governments behind them that are orchestrating the channels and pathways for them to do this. Look at the Mexican-U.S. border, where children are being poured into the United States and out of the United States through that open border. You don't think about that? You should. You need to think about that. There's some dark shit going on this planet. It went on during the time of Master Jesus. They canceled him. Remember that. They canceled him. They murdered him. And then they got you to worship him in his suffering. And they've trained you to worship his suffering. And he said, no, I want you to worship love and worship life. But again, authorities that we have now are the same authorities that existed in his day. They're just more technologically evolved in terms that they can surveillance you. I watched an event where we watched the fireworks here in Toronto at Ashbridges Bay, and we watched these surveillance drones flying over these thousands of people there. Surveillance drones out of fireworks here in Canada. This is Canada, supposed to be one of the freest nations in the world. I've been here since I was born. I've moved up different places, but generally I've lived here my entire life. There are cameras on every corner for your safety. You need to wake up. Governments know and have eyes everywhere. They know where these children are going. And they know who's taking them. And they know who's using them. And who's mining their bodies for adrenochrome. And who's using them for sexual objectifications. Not just children, teenagers, adults that vanish. And you can accept this or not. But if you dig a little deeper into the realm of information, you'll find out it's true. The only way that so many children can be vanishing is if you have a highly structured organization in place that's able to move these children from one place to another without being seen. Not to mention the massive underground tunnel complexes that most people don't even know exist. But it's a government organization and your money funding it. Please wake up. You've got to keep the truth alive. And some of you might think I'm batshit crazy. And sometimes I think I'm batshit crazy. But this I know. I've lived through abuse. I've lived through being used as a sexual object. I've lived through that. And what I lived through is a tea party compared to what some of these children are going through. You have no idea. You talk to some of the police in different cities around the world who delve into the world of child pornography, and they will tell you some horror stories. I have a former family member that was involved in that it took him a long time to overcome what he had to deal with. So this is a real thing going on a scale that is unimaginable. Think of a city like Toronto. It's got like 3 or 4 million people, but think of a city like that every year just vanishing and nobody noticing. Think about that. A city like Toronto vanishing every year and nobody noticing. But they don't do it that way. They pull one here, one here. There's almost 9 billion people on the planet. They pick and choose very carefully. They know how to not make it obvious. They've got all the eyes and all the ears, and they know what's going on, and they know what I'm saying is true. And regardless of what happens, I'm speaking it now. Whether this gets taken down or not is that going to be up to the government or the surveillance system? But I do know this. Even those that survive the type of abuse that some of these children are surviving, there is work that they will need to do. Our underground railroad at least has a system in place to help some of these kids get the proper mental and emotional and physical support that they need in healing. So I encourage you to support that organization. At the very least, go and see the movie. But you need to keep this truth alive, that there are millions of children that disappear every year that are forgotten. There are children that are abandoned that just pulled off the streets and disappear. Go online. You see, it happens in China every day. That people in vans drive up and literally grab kids from people's arms and drive off. Happens in the United States. Wake up. Because it could be your child next. Or your neighbors. And what organization, think about it logically, what other organizations are there on the planet that can avoid every ear and every eye, every satellite? Government. And until you realize that government is behind the problems of this planet, we're still going to have worse problems than this to come. And what Jesus tells me, he says, you got to get it, William. People are going to swing to so much negative energy that there is going to be consequences. There will be consequences to the digressions of human iniquity that will prove to be extremely difficult for most, if not all of you, to survive unless you are able to shift from fear to love. You have to make this shift in your consciousness. And you need to hear this, and I need to say this. That if you do not understand that the truth does not mean keeping quiet, the truth means speaking out and speaking the truth the best way you can. So if it's not obvious to you that they could find Osama bin Laden hidden in a house somewhere in the middle of the Middle East, but they can't find 7 million children? Really? Really? I don't think so. And you need to realize that it's going on. But please go see that movie, The Sound of Freedom, at the very least. Get a little more information, or go to their website, right? It's called Our Underground Railroad. And God bless these children, and there are angels with them that can't physically interfere, encouraging them, giving them hope. And then there are those ones that are guided to the heavens from the angels, that are used in sacrifice and horrific ways. You have no idea. But there are those in law enforcement, good people in law enforcement, good people that care about these children, good people in all the organizations, whether it's CIA, NSA, CSIS, doesn't matter what. There are good men in all levels of government. Unfortunately, there's more evil now than there is good in our governments. But those that are of good character, they know and they care. And if you're hearing this and you are one of those people, please do everything you can to let the public know what's going on. Because there's no other organization capable of moving that many children around and not being seen, unless it's a government organization or a network of government organizations. And I'm just going to say it like that. The only reason this can go on is because those who are taking care of us aren't taking care of us. It's exactly what happened to me in my situation. My mother brought a man in who was going to take care of us, and he did. And our governments are doing the same thing to us, we the people, now, on a global scale. And this might be hard to hear, but you have to hear this. Governments are doing to the people in general what's happening to these children that are vanishing by the millions every year. You have to realize that. If the governments had integrity, and there would be no debt. Master Jesus said, he said, William, debt, this is from him. He said, William, debt is a violation of divine law. In God's kingdom, there is no debt. There is prosperity. But in the manufactured reality of men, and I mean humanity, not just the sex, gender men, because when I say men, I mean all men, that men have manufactured this concept of debt to the extent where the few benefit and the many suffer. And they will still tell you you're not doing enough. You've got to pay more taxes. The underlying message is that you're not enough. And that's how they keep you in a mindset of lack. So they keep you in debt. And he told me that when he said, debt is a violation of love. It's a violation of divinity. It's not a law of God's. It's a law of man's. It's a creation of humanity, debt. And he said the difference between fear and love is happiness, right? If you learn to come closer to love. Wow. Again, I'm grateful that I get this moment, even this time, because I guess this channel could be canceled out, whatever. I don't really care at this point in time, because you have to know the truth, and you have to share the truth, and you have to tell the truth. There are millions, not thousands, millions of children disappear every year. You got to understand this. And what our Underground Railroad is doing is very small, on such a small scale, comparatively speaking. There's not enough manpower and resources for them to counter the type of technology and the infrastructure that governments have to circumvent them. They give them a little bit here and a little bit there. They're smart. Governments are smart. Your leaders are smart in terms of they can plan their evil intelligently. That's what's going on. Governments have learned to plan their evil intelligently. And most people are basically good and trusting, which is why you trust them, even though you know that what they're doing to you is wrong. More taxes, right? You can't collect your rainwater. Oh, don't grow your own food. It's not safe. You better let us grow your food. You got to realize what's going on. Like, I love all you guys. I really appreciate you. I know normally I bring a message through every day, but this is the message that I was told to deliver this message, right? Keep the truth alive. And I will repeat it until it is heard, because that's the only way. You repeat it long enough and loud enough, somebody's bound to listen, right? But you look down your street when you see children playing, and think of 1 million of those children disappear every few months. Just look down the street. Think that's going on the planet right now. And how do so many children disappear? Think about it. They can find a common bank robber or a thief on a camera. Most crimes are now solved that way. But why is the sex slave trade and pornographic industry so prolific? Because there's an organization behind it that can support it and sustain it. So you need to look at your governments and who's going into power and why, and what their rules and laws. Take a look at certain things like a chemical called BPA. I don't know the full chemical, that's the short form name for it. BPA was an estrogen mimicking chemical compound that was put in plastic bottles for decades. An estrogen mimicking chemical put in plastics for decades. Think about all the men that drank from that plastic. What happens when you give a man estrogen? What happens when you give a woman testosterone? Think about it logically. I'm not trying to blame me. I'm just saying, look, you put estrogen in a man's diet, it's going to change him. And for 60 years, that chemical was in plastics. It's only been a few years now that they banned it from being in plastic. Only a few years. And you wonder why some of the crazy shit that's unfolding on the planet is unfolding on the planet? Because they chemically are messing with humans. And the only way it can be done on such a grand scale is if governments are complicit. And those that support governments are complicit. I don't mean the average person. I mean the big money players that funnel money into governments, special interests. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. You all know it's true. But the question is then, what do we do about this? What do we actually do? Because your vote is manipulated, who you're going to vote for. Look what the Dutch farmers did. They overthrew their government. They formed a majority government by saying no, and all the farmers ran. How many of you know about that? The Dutch farmers now are in charge of the government. They own a majority of the government. They're now trying to form a more rational government based on values that are about life and growing food. And yet some of the challenges we face are the very chemicals that the farmers are fighting to keep in the market are also harmful to our planet. Most mass agricultural farming does more damage than it does good, because the function of natural growing hasn't existed in over 100 years, except in private gardens and private farms that have maintained the process of organic gardening and formulated a healthy composite relationship with nature. And I know this is a lot of stuff we're coming today, but it's really important. You got to open your eyes. You got to open your eyes what's being done to you by your governments. Because if you don't wake up, and this thing on the shirt that says you are love, it's because it's your true nature. And an educational system has been constructed to tell you who you are supposed to be, not to help you become what you can be, but to tell you who you are supposed to be, what you are supposed to think, when you are supposed to think it, at what time do you eat, at what time do you... Someone is telling you what to be from the moment now. And now they've got this whole thing where they bring kids into schools really early. They bring kids into schools really early so they can condition them sooner. Anyway, you need to keep the truth alive. This is what Jesus has done for over 2,000 years. He's kept the truth alive. He's kept it alive. He's kept the truth alive. And you have to understand that the truth fundamentally is that love is what you are. But he's kept it alive in our hearts. They've got you, tried to convince you that his suffering was the thing to worship. No, his truth is to be worshipped, not his suffering. That crucifix with him bleeding and suffering on it is not the form of worship that he wanted anybody to have for him. He wanted us to worship the truth and the function of love and compassion and kindness, but the truth above all. Above all things, the truth. And I get the honor and the privilege to have his energy come into my life on a regular basis, right? He comes and he talks to me. William, stop thinking that way. Focus on that. Try this thing. And I got a beautiful partner who's very similar to him. Probably the closest thing to Jesus I have in the physical world is my partner. And it's an amazing thing that you have access to that information too. You have access to the truth. And you know it. You know it. So how do we, as a collective humanity, get out of this nightmare of authoritarianism that's growing at a rapid pace around the planet? How do we get out from underneath the rule of these dark and evil beings that are stealing children and perpetuating most of the crime on the planet? Taking your money from you is a crime. Taking money from you is a crime. If you go rob a bank, they will arrest you quite quickly, won't they? But a government can come and take money from your paycheck every week, and that's okay. It's a crime, stealing. And there's no other way to look at it. It's the truth. And, it's paying for the roads and paying for the bridges. Yeah? Well, you've taken so much money, you created so much debt. Why are the roads and the bridges not fixed? Where's that money going? You must keep the truth alive. Remember, every tax dollar that gets taken from you is taken. It's taken from you. And it goes and supports these governments that are stealing these children. Keeping the sex slave trade alive and well all over the planet. And slavery. And you need to wake up. And I so am grateful for those of you that are here to hear these words, and I hope you share this. And again, you can, if you're on TikTok, you can share the video from my YouTube channel. Again, if it doesn't get taken down, right? Because there's been a massive movement to suppress ideas and information around the planet, even if they're unpleasant ideas. Been a massive movement to suppress these ideas. We watched that happen during the so-called pandemic. We watched that happen, where highly skilled professionals spoke their truth, and they were removed from your ears. Who did that? Government. What is government doing? They steal your money. They orchestrate the mass movement of children all over the world. Governments do this. How can you not see 6 million people go missing? Especially when they're children. But when you go out your door this morning and you're walking down the street and you look at children, think about that. There's 6 million disappear every year. Where the hell do they go? You have to ask yourself that question. And if you don't ask yourself that question, then you just shut off. You're just unconscious. And I feel sorry for you, because then you don't have compassion until someone comes knocking at your door with a gun and says, you're under arrest. You disagreed with us. Right? That's happened in Nazi Germany. It's happened in Stalinist Russia. It's happened in Maoist China. It's still going on in some of these countries. Happened in Vietnam. Happened in South America, Venezuela, many other countries, so-called democratic countries. The only form of government that is going to assure the rights and freedoms of everybody is a constitutional republic, such as what the United States once was. But it's staggering around like a drunken man on his feet right now, with its truth and its lies. And I send so much prayers to my American friends and those American political activists that are really working hard to keep the truth alive in the United States, that are speaking their truth. That I hope that your constitutional republic survives this demonic movement that's happening right now on the planet. There is a demonic move. There is an evil being. The term they use for it generally is Satan, but it's happening right in front of our eyes. And so I pray for that constitutional republic, and that the whole world eventually become a constitutional republic where we all have the right to bear arms, where we all have the right to our opinions, our thoughts, our emotions, and our freedoms. I've seen so much evidence to indicate that that there are ways of identifying if people are capable of being responsible with a weapon or not, being trained. Anyway, I don't want to get into the whole weapons thing. I just wanted to really get you to wake up and be aware that you have to keep the truth alive. There are millions of children that go missing every year. It has been going on for many years, right? The difference between 1 million and 1 billion is quite significant. So yeah, and how can these children be moved around and disappear so easily with the amount of surveillance that is all over the globe? All over the globe. There are satellites that can look at the date on a dime, and they can't pinpoint where millions of children are going. Whoa, wait, there was this place called Epstein Island. It's now shut down. One of the more obvious locations. We'll throw one to the public and let them know that we're on top of it. That's just small scale compared to what they've got hidden all over the world and under the world. I don't want to get into too much, but please, when you walk down the street, do this. Look at the children and realize there are people stealing children and using them in the sex slave trade as slaves, period. And that the freedom you have to get up and walk out the door is something they don't have. I remember that for 7 years. I went through that. I did not have the freedom to sleep at night. And I did not have the freedom that so many other children have and deserve. So I know what it's like to have my freedom taken away in that respect, but not to the degree that these children, where they are locked in rooms in chains, used as sexual objects for the gratification of dark, evil beings that are there to steal a life from these innocent individuals. But I have enough of an awareness of it to know the horror. If I were to magnify what I went through by 1,000 times, I might come close to the suffering that they went through. But the vast majority of you don't have that experience. The vast majority of people don't have that experience. And that's what makes it so easy to hide, so easy to deny, because you haven't had that experience. So it's happened. Oh, I read about it. That's terrible. It's in the news. But that's as far as you go. But if someone were to hold you down on a bed and squeeze your throat till you can barely breathe, well, they want to use you as a personal pleasure toy, and your life is feeling like it's going to end at any moment, I can assure you, you would not be ignoring what I'm saying, and you would not just take it for granted. And again, I normally on this channel bring messages of love and guidance and inspiration. That's what normally happens, but I was guided to do this today, to share this truth. This is really close to my heart. And I hope anything I've said that's brought it a little closer to yours, that you can become a little bit more aware of what is going on and who is behind it, and really question your leaders and your governments. Really listen, because some of them are really good. They can sound so nice. Many of your leaders, they've perfected the art of having the proper tone to speak to you in, right? They've learned the tone of sincerity. They've learned how to manipulate you with sound and tone, and they've learned how to do that. And unfortunately, you are trusting. The vast majority of people on the planet are trustworthy and good people. And that is why we find ourselves in the position, because when you place your trust in someone, let the results speak, not the words. Let the results speak. When a leader says, I'm going to, see, I think any leader that makes a promise and doesn't keep it should be fired immediately. When they say to you, I'm going to fix the roads across this country, and they fix one road and nothing else, and they put that road on the TV and they say, look at what we did with this road. Aren't we so great? Watch what they do, not what they say. They've all become, most politicians are experts at what they're going to say to you and how they're going to say it. They have people that tell them how to say it. They have huge psychological machines behind them that instruct, oh, certain voice tone and body postures will cause this effect in people. So do it in this fashion. And they rehearse it with them. They do that. They've learned how to manipulate you. Please wake up. The truth must be kept alive. And to whatever degree and extent that I'm able to do that, I will do that here and everywhere. And it's not going to be easy because encountering the truth can be very painful sometimes. That you made a mistake by voting a certain person into a position of power over which they had no capability of asserting proper loving authority. I don't think any politicians get into power unless they're driven by love, not greed or passion. I mean, they can be passionate about what they love, but love is the foundation of what a leader should come from. That place of love. The well-being of others is more important to me than my own. That's what a politician's heart should be, of love. And then that love can be demonstrated by policies and actions that prove it. Oh, sorry, we're in more debt this year. Oh, we'll have to borrow money from the. But I thought you said you're going to get rid of the debt. Oh, yeah, but these things happened, right? And they create things that happen, folks. You got a network of governments that create things that are going to happen, so they can drag your trust a little further and a little further and a little further. And that's exactly what goes on. So yeah, I will take some questions and answers. Again, Master Jesus' energy has been present with me all morning. That's why I'm kind of so overwhelmed, because the amount of love this being has in his heart. He doesn't have to emanate it. He is it. He is love. That's one of the beautiful things about Jesus, is he is love. Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, these are beings of love. You know, Yogananda, being of love. So many beings of love. Dr. Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, beings of love. They don't have to, they are it. They don't need to demonstrate it. It's just that you have to learn how to hear them again. You have to remember who you are. You have to remember this, that you are love. You need to remember this. That's another truth that you need to keep alive. At the cornerstone of all your nonsense and garbage and stuff going on in life, you are love. That's the foundation of what every human sentient being is when they come into this planet. And what happens after we come to this planet may skew us away from the nature of what you are, but you are love. You are love in your cornerstone. And for those of you that have the ears to hear it. Those of you with the feelings to feel it, because that is the truth. You are love. Underneath all of the nonsense you might have going on in your life and in your head, you are love underneath all that. And if you can get back to that truth and consider then what would love say, what would love do, what would love be, then you'll start walking the same path Jesus is on all the time, or Archangel Michael, or God, or any of the beings of love. If you remember who you are as a spiritual consciousness, really wonderful things will start to happen. Now, that doesn't mean you're a pushover, too, because we do have to make changes. Radical changes have to be made on this planet. We got 21 years left between now and what could potentially happen to get our spiritual house in order, our love consciousness restored to this planet. 21 years. So that's what I've been told. May of 2044. We have between now and then to shift our collective unconsciousness from fear to love. There's an inevitable result that happens from different emotional energies. If you're in a state of joy, certain things happen for you and around you. When you're in a state of anger, certain things happen for you and around you. When you're in a state of fear, certain things happen for you and around. When you're in a state of love, certain things happen for you and around you. And if you remember who you are as a spiritual consciousness, and you begin to live from that and speak from that and act from that and do from that, then you will not allow the truth to die. And you will not allow someone to lie to you. And you will not accept the lies of other people. You know, when you consider the number of politicians that are in the governing bodies of this planet, they number so few. The governing bodies, even if you took all the governing bodies, all the military, all law enforcement, and compared them to the general population, you've got a grain of sand to a beach. Just a thought. Anyway, just know that you are love, and you need to come back to that truth, because when you find the truth of who you are, you will return to God, the living God, here and now. The kingdom of God is here and now. It is not somewhere else. It's in what you are as a being. It's not in your fear. It's not in your anger. It's not in your past. It's not in your future. It's here and now. It really is. It really, really is. Anyway, thank you so much for bearing with me on this. Look at all the incredible comments today. Okay, so someone's asking can I ask Jesus to expound a little bit more on what he meant by the seed that got planted in the fertile soil? This is a great, great question. It essentially means that the idea, the foundation to which you plant an idea or a belief, if it is of truth and love and truth are the soil into which you put an idea. If an idea is fed with love and truth, it will grow, as does the apple seed placed in good soil. If your idea is placed in fear and anger and rage and guilt and shame, it will wither and die. But if your idea is based in love and truth, it will flourish. It is easy to use the allegory of the mustard seed, for many can understand that better, a seed, but it did not represent the full truth, that the ideas that you hold in your mind that are not founded on love and truth will wither and die. You will decay under the weight of fear. Wow. Thank you, number 32. I appreciate that. Hi, guys. Wow. Marianne Williamson for president. You know, that's a really wonderful sentence. You have to realize how big and how small this organization is. It's a big, small organization. It's a big organization that has the capability to kill people whenever they want to steal children whenever they want to steal your money whenever they want to make rules and laws that prevent you from collecting rainwater or even building certain things on your property. These are groups and organizations that are big in terms of their reach of law, but very small in terms of people. They're very small-minded people. Just very intelligent, mind you. They're intelligent enough to create rules and laws that you can say, oh, that makes sense to me. They'll convince you to believe that giving them your money that they're going to misuse is okay to do, while telling you it's not okay to collect rainwater for your family or to grow your own food or have chickens in your backyard, right? Because they don't want you to be independent, right? Sorry, I'm in this energy. I'm going to, just going to scroll here. 74. Wow, here we go. Tell the truth. Thank you, Drusilla, for that super chat on YouTube. Tell the truth. Yes, keep the truth alive. Speak it. Don't hide it. Don't ignore it. Most of the government is corrupt and evil and complicit in 98% of the crimes on this planet. Governments are complicit in 98% of the crimes that happen on this planet. And the evidence is in how much debt there is, how much more crime there is, how much more confusion there is, how much more fighting there is among the people. Governments are complicit in this. 98%. Keep that in mind. Supernatural spirituality. Oh, thank you for that super sticker. I really appreciate it. I love it. Somebody saying, I'm sorry you had all those awful experiences. Yeah, they were awful, but I'm so grateful because now I understand what's going on and why I am where I am and what I'm here to help facilitate on this planet. I was given the job of bringing about the manifestation of love as an expression that would be dominant to humanity instead of fear. Let's go here and see if we got a question here. Supernatural. Yeah. So supernatural. I'm sorry that you had those awful years suffering at the hands of someone you trusted. I'd love to help these children and our, please do. If you can, go out and help that organization. They don't have the manpower to compete with government organizations. You have to understand, the governments that create the laws, that have the surveillance, are the ones that have set all this up. You have to understand this is going on. And it may be hard for you to hear that because you want to trust your government. Someone's in charge. This guy wanted to trust my stepfather the first time he came into the house and gave me $1. He said, here, I wanted to trust that man. He was so generous to me. He gave me that, right? And gave me a little more. And all of a sudden, one day, it completely changed. Governments do the exact same thing to you. Here, we'll give you this. We'll give you relief while we isolate you in your homes. We're going to give you some money, right? You watch out. Governments are grooming the population as equally as pedophiles and sex slave traders groom children in the educational system. Now it's in schools. The grooming of children is now in schools. And who runs the schools? Government. You got to realize 98% of the crimes on this planet are perpetuated by governments, not by the people. 98%. Remember that, please. Someone saying, child slavery points the need for each individual to find and support the inner child until the collective looks inward and further nurtures our inner child. It can only end there. That's a yes and a no there, grand design. We can look into our own hearts, but we still have to keep the truth alive and share it with other people. Think about this, what I'm saying right now. 90% of the crime on this planet is government subsidized crime. Most of the child sex slave trafficking is perpetuated by governments. They have the infrastructure. They have the surveillance equipment. A guy like Jeffrey Epstein could commit suicide in one of the most surveilled. Come on. These people are highly, they just gave us one. Oh, we got rid of one pedophile. No, you have to understand, this is a massive global organization that is not restricted to an individual like Jeffrey Epstein. He's a small player when you look at the big picture. He just happened to have some information that would upset a few of the bigger players. But you have to still speak the truth. You have to tell it like it is. You have to tell people to realize, tell people, millions of children are disappearing every year, and the governments don't know where they go. How can that be? Millions. How can that possibly be? With all the surveillance, they watch you at every step. They watch you on your phones, on your computers. And you don't think that these traffickers have cell phones and computers? Why aren't they being tracked? Makes you wonder. Things that make you go, right? Think about it. Yeah. Yeah, and Drusilla's here saying on the YouTube, they lost 85 children at the border in the last 2 years. 85 children vanished. That's just at the Mexico-U.S. border where they could track them somewhat. They estimate 85,000. They estimate. It's probably much higher than that. And this is going on all over the world. Vietnam, Thailand. This trade is a global organization. Yes, we do. Oh, Jade, thank you so much for that super chat. Really appreciate it. Again, I don't normally, anybody that knows me, has been on this channel for a long enough time, know that this is not something that normally happens on this channel, but it has to happen. It has to be said. This movie that came out, the Sound of Freedom, was a clarion call for the masses to wake up. And that this organization is but a speck of dust trying to fight a dust storm. And they need more people. They need more manpower. They need more surveillance equipment. And we need a government that is not involved in the industry. And everybody knows what I'm saying is true, whether you want to accept it or not. Even those of the woke mind, I'm not woke, I'm awakened. But even those of the woke mind, you have to look at follow the chain of causation. Why do they want to bring children into the realm of sex when they're just infants? Why? Why would you want to do that with education? Why would it come from the top down? Why? got to question why. And they've been putting estrogen in bottles for 60 years, plastic bottles for 60 years. It's going to affect male consciousness. It's going to affect male biology. They're simple things. Do a little digging and researching. Do a little digging and researching. Please. Someone saying, my mother was sold into slavery by her own mother at a young age to serve as American military or men overseas. I understand your tone. Make sure we come with a high vibe and not be drawn down by it. Yeah, that's true. But sometimes you also have to stand up, and you have to stand up, and you have to be strong, and you have to be firm. You say, no. And we have to push back and say, no, this is it. Look at the truckers who protested what was happening. And here in Ottawa, I was there. I participated in that. I'm proud to say I was. I'm proud to witness Canadian love at its finest. And you watched a government take down an organization that was functioning from a plane of love. What does that tell you? So you don't ever think that governments have got your best interests at heart. They'll give you a crumb and take the loaf. That's what they do. But yeah, we do need to do that. We do need to stay in a place of strength. We do have to fight back at some point in time. You know, that's the one regret Master Jesus has. He says, I went along with the crucifixion because I was given the understanding that they would not persecute my people. They told me, and I agreed, that they would not persecute any of my people if I gave myself up to them. That's the truth. And he did. And they lied. And they went on and murdered Christians for over 300 years. And I'm not just talking about Christians, anybody who opposed their regime, which is still alive. That Roman system is still running the world today. If you haven't realized it now, the Roman Catholic Church evolved out of Rome. It just happened to hijack the teachings of the great master, perpetuated fear instead of love. Jesus said this repeatedly. Do not worship my suffering, worship my truth, which is love. That's what he said. And it was twisted horribly. And if I'm breaking any of your illusions about what you've heard, I'm not apologizing because it's the truth. He was lied to. And the demons of that day lied to him. And they lie to you now. The same demons lying to you now, telling you that they will do good for you and they do nothing for you. They take your money, your wealth, your sweat, your blood, your tears. And it's not right because you deserve better. You deserve heaven on earth. And there was a time that we were close to that. A time where families and neighbors were valued and treasured. Where you loved and honored and respected each other. We had a set of values that were there consistently, repeatedly. We understood what was right, what was wrong. It was very clear and well defined. Those lines have not been very clear for several years now, because you see politicians lying through their teeth blatantly now. You see them covering up for their children who are pedophiles and rapists. You see so many of these things going on. And yet, there they are. We have to stand up at some point in time. Yes, I know. Thank you so much. Again, I'll try and get some questions on TikTok as well today. I'm not in a big hurry to go anywhere because you have to understand how imperative it is that we wake up. And again, if you're listening here on YouTube or TikTok or Facebook, share this. Even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? If it's not a perfectly structured presentation, share it because there is some truth in here that you need to share with other people. People need to know that how is it possible? How is it possible millions of children can disappear around the world every year and not be discovered or found? How is that possible? You have to have an organization that is extremely well hooked up, that has control over surveillance, what gets watched and what doesn't get watched, what controls the borders, air traffic, ground traffic. Who does that? Well, the governments. So they control what's going on. And if you don't wake up, that control is going to become so absolute. You're going to be like I was as a little child in that bedroom that first night, realizing something really bad is going to happen and I can't stop it. And I would like humanity to not reach that point. And the reason Master Jesus wanted to bring this subject up today was for that purpose. That is unnecessary to perpetuate our suffering. The functions of love are very clear. The functions of fear are very clear. Do not let darkness enter your home, right? You let things be proven. But every politician on this planet should be banned from receiving any money from special interest organization groups. Any political party should be banned from receiving funds from business interests, special interests. And any politician that fails to accomplish what they say they are going to accomplish, the moment they have one fall from grace, they should be fired instantly. There should be laws in place globally that a politician that does not do or provide what he said he was going to do or provide, they should be fired on the spot. Because that position of authority is the ultimate trust on this planet. Just as for a child, the ultimate trust and authority is your parents. Well, for humans in general, for all of us, our governments are supposed to be the ultimate form of trust. And when you violate that trust, get the hell out. Bye. Leave. Get out. We have to get that in place globally. If you say, I'm going to build all the bridges renewed, and you build one bridge renewed, and you have an excuse, you're fired. If you say we're going to get rid of the drug problem and it gets worse, you're fired. Stop giving drugs to people. Why do you think the big drug problem originates from? Pharmaceutical industry, right? Yeah, I'm pulling out all the stops today, right? I'm just letting it out, guys. And governments are now providing the drugs, the needles, in great copious amounts now around the world. They're starting to do this around the world, here in Canada, in the United States, making drugs available for people who are suffering because they're using it. Oh, we don't want them to suffer, so we'll give them more. How stupid is that? Fire their asses. If the problem is getting worse, fire their asses. And we need laws in place that say, if you do not do as you say you're going to do, you are fired. Really? It's that simple. Without governments, there would be no more wars. There would be people simply helping people. If you need a road built in the neighborhood, then your neighbors would hopefully get together and you'd build a road. That's how it used to be. You'd go down the road and, oh, there's the road. Maybe we can put something else on it and make it stronger. People began to rely on one another instead of an externalized body that has no bearing, because he lives in Washington and you live in Oregon and he has no idea what your experience is there, but he makes a law that governs your life. Or if I'm here in Toronto and somebody makes a law in Ottawa, they don't live here in Toronto, but they make a law for me. No, politicians and that type of thing should be local. And I know that municipal governments are supposed to be that. But again, municipal governments, all municipalities are in debt. Fire their asses. We need to fire all of the politicians and have a law in place that says, if you say you're going to do something, you make a promise, you do it, or you're fired immediately. And they would all go, we had a very different set of politicians. I tell you right now, if you knew you were going to, if you made one mistake, you said one thing and didn't do it, you'd be fired. You'd have real politicians, real leaders, right? Yeah, I'm unplugged today, guys. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Oh, yeah. Somebody's mentioned here, adoption is legalized human trafficking. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry that destroys families and sells those babies and young children to people who are infertile. that's just one aspect of that. And again, that's another rabbit hole to go down. But most of the adoptive and social service agencies are that. All these children go missing around the world. You need a huge infrastructure to have thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of people to disappear. You have to have a significant amount of infrastructure in place to control that. Like Stalin had the government and guns on his hands so he could murder 50 million people over his rule. Mao Zedong, when he came to power in the 60s, did the same thing, murdered at least 20 million people, lots more since then, that government. And don't get me wrong, the same thing goes on in the United States and Canada. It's just very quiet and much lower key on a different scale. People suddenly having events happen, mysterious illnesses and things. That's another story. Scrolling down here. As Jesus said to Pilate, "You have no authority over me. Government is not stealing. They are reflecting to us that we steal. They're reflecting that there are kids in our own backyards that need love." Yeah, there's some truth to that, but I don't agree with that completely because governments have been stealing from the people for thousands of years. And I think we're coming to the end of that cycle. Wave, please do. Yeah, please watch the movie. It's called The Sound. Yeah. The Sound of Freedom is what it's called. God, there's so many, I won't even be able to keep up with it. But remember, if you're new to the channel or if you're on TikTok, please subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my TikTok, give the video a thumbs up, share this information, share it. Like he said, keep the truth alive. That's the most important thing. And if you're keeping the truth alive, you're going to bring love to life. If you keep the truth alive, you'll bring love to life. Somebody asked that question about what he said about planting good seed. It's very true. What thoughts we harbor in our hearts give rise to our lives. What thoughts we harbor in our hearts give rise to the experiences of our lives, right? So learn to fill your mind with love, but also don't take bullshit from anybody. Pardon my language. I'm just at that place. But yeah, we got that. Scrolling down. I could throw Trudeau out the window. I clear 54% of I clear 54% of what I earn. I know taxation is forced slavery. It really is. It really, really is. And yeah, I love that most of the buildings and stuff, infrastructure you see are created by developers. Most of the infrastructure you see are created by developers, right? Governments are just a mechanism for scraping the cream off the top of society for themselves. Someone's saying, "I'm so glad you were talking about this." Well, I've been holding this in for a long, long time, keeping this to myself. And he said, "No, you have to speak your truth. You have got to keep the truth alive. If you don't speak your truth, then you will be no better than the government. You'll be no better than the leaders who are doing this." Yeah, please protect our children. Plant the seed. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm curious, as a psychic, have you ever communicated with any ETs? Yes, I have. I've received communications from the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, and the Lyrans. It's a very different energy. Beings that aren't on the nation. Yeah, when they communicate, it's from a very different energy. And there are some ETs that aren't so high vibrational, but the ones I communicate with are on the frequency that I communicate on, and they resonate with that. But yes, I have. Thank you for asking. Lily's asking, are there any messages for me, please? Go watch the movie. Yes, and drink more water for Pete's sake. Lily, drink some more water today. Good water, not tap water. Good water. Jackie's asking, do my deceased parents feel regret for their abuse of me all my life? I get a strong yes, but I'm also being told that the healing that needs to occur for your work, and again, I don't know what work you do or are going to do, but the healing that needed to occur for your work is why this was precipitated. So I don't know what work you're in, but whatever happened there, they're communicating to me that the healing that you went through or are going through is needed for your work. Again, you're supposed to help a lot of other people to overcome their suffering. Again, I don't know what way you'll do that, but that's what they're telling me right now. That at the time there was a contract for that function at the time. They're saying it's not what you, yes. Okay. In the place of now where they are now, there's a great sadness about what they did. But in the place of where you are going through your healing, there's great joy at what you can accomplish. Great joy at what you can accomplish. Right? Yeah, it gets into splitting hairs because I got to say, I went through the kind of abuse that I went through, and I hated every moment of it when I was going through it. And I lived, 27 years of my life were spent in dysfunction and addiction and alcoholism. And I loathed my life for a long time, to the point where I, wanted to commit suicide on numerous occasions. And then things changed. I started to heal. And I can say to anybody out there listening to this right now, that if you're in a place where you've gone through a lot of pain and suffering, I can promise you that if you begin a process of healing that part of you that's angry and hurt and disappointed, if you begin that process, you're going to come to a new place in your life. You're going to come out to another side of yourself where you can extend what you learn to others to assist them in ending their suffering. Because that's what I'm dedicating my work to, is helping to others to end their suffering through the messages and the information I'm able to receive and provide through the healing that I've gone through. I get to share that with you. The truth of what healing really is, that you are not here to suffer. You're here to create. Yes, I understand. Silly question. My wall clock stopped at 7 minutes past 7 in the morning on 07/07/07. What was that about? I'm being told if you had meditated that day, you will be feeling the ray of peace that you've been seeking. If you have meditated upon this, you'll receive the ray of peace that you were seeking. So that's what it was, to stimulate you being into an alignment with 07/07/07, so that you can receive a ray of peace, right? Be coming from Master Saint Germain, that ray of peace, by the way. My connection to God has been severed. He feels so far away. Andrew, God is in your chest right now, beating your heart. Close your eyes, literally, like close your eyes. Place your hand over your physical heart and feel it beating. Bring yourself to the feeling of your beating heart. It dwells within you at this moment. It is the life that says, I am with you. I am with you. I am. I am with you. I am with you. I am with you. Remember that. Feel it in your heart right now. I am with you. I am with you. I am with you. Feel it. It's in you right now. It's not somewhere else. It's in you. It's in all of us. It's in all of us right now. Yeah. Me and my kid need a reading from you. Yeah, go to my website. You can book a reading. It'll be an amazing experience for your child when you come through. Remember, whoever comes through for you on your reading is going to be unique to you. The beings and the masters that want to communicate to you, the long past relatives, others that may want to communicate to you. Yeah, please avail yourself of that connection and that awareness, because you will receive information and guidance that you will not receive anywhere else on this planet. So thank you. I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing you. Again, you go to my website, williammichaelforbes.com, and just click on shop and click readings. I look forward to seeing you, Renegade. Can I please leave a message from my spirit guides? Fleur. Yes. I don't know. Something about rocks, piles of rocks. I'm seeing these big piles of giant rocks, like giant rocks along a beach, that you need to sit on these rocks. You need to connect to the energy of the earth. Really important. But it's not just like the grass. This is like on giant rocks. You need to go to this place where these big rocks are on the shore of a lake. I don't know the lake. I'm just seeing like the green colors of the water. It's not like a tropical place, but this is a place where there's large rocks. Sit on the highest rock you see. Sit up on the highest rock you see and just be there. Be there for a few minutes. You're going to receive. The words I'm getting, you're going to receive the light. You're going to receive the light. It'll come in. You'll feel it in the throat chakra first. You'll feel it in here. So yeah, turn your head up and feel that. But let us know how that goes when you do that, please. Someone said, I just went to the movie Freedom from Angel Studios. You have never said there. I'm not sure what that means. I just went to the movie Freedom from Angel Studio. You have never said truer words, love. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now I understand that. Yeah. My father's in his last days. I feel the God spirit is not with me. I'm in so much pain. Gigi, I'm going to just transmit the love and the light of Archangel Raphael with you and your father. Go to your father. Go to your father and tell him that God awaits his arrival with love. Tell him those words. God awaits your arrival with love. And be willing to wish him well on this journey. Do not hold him back. Tell him to be of great, great joy that God will receive him. He needs to hear those words from you. He needs to hear those words from you. And you need to speak them. You need to let him go with love and grace. And you will find that grace will be restored to you. Let him go with love and grace. That you find that grace will be restored to you. Your suffering will end. Right? A lot of people don't realize when somebody's leaving this dimension, don't try to fight to keep them here. Like they're going to go out of this physical dimension to a realm of consciousness that's a lot different than this one. Be grateful for them. Celebrate with them. Walk with him as long as you can. Walk with him on his journey to the other side. Go as far as you can and wish him well. You know, it's like you're sending your person, somebody you love. They're going on a trip that they've wanted to go on their entire life. Are you going to say, oh, don't go on this trip that you've been waiting to go on your entire life? Don't do that, please. I want you to stay here with me. No. Get close to them and say, bon voyage, bon voyage. Enjoy the journey. I love you. I love you. I love you. And then when you do that, you will have a space in your life for more love here. You'll make space. By not holding on to them, you'll make space for you, and you make it easier for them to make that journey without feeling guilty or like they're doing something wrong. Right? So important. Hello, how are you doing? Yeah, I understand. We as adults have the duty to protect and teach about the past trauma and negative energy. Absolutely. Like events like what happened in China, what happened in Germany, what happened in Stalinist Russia, what happened in Vietnam, you know, what happened in all these different places around the world, South America, where governments, people in positions of authority abuse their power for their own personal aggrandizement. It's horrible. It's horrible. A leader lifts his people up and the people are lifted. It's true. You know, Aboriginal tribes around the world that are still not damaged beyond function, their leaders they all work together to lift each other up, to make sure they're fed and clothed and sheltered. That's what leadership does. It ensures that everybody's on the team. That's what happens. We don't see that in modern government at all. We're not all being lifted up, are we? We're not all getting the best food and the best air and the best clothing, are we? Right? No. It's because it's a special club. I feel that in Canada, as an adult, my government speaks to me like I am a child. Worse than that, your government is treating you in Canada like they know better for you than you know for yourself. And this is a scary thing when government now says they will tell your children what they're to learn. People didn't get this. They understood back in the early 19th century, when they first created education. A lot of people knew it was wrong to send their children to these private places to learn. Oh, we'll teach them to read and teach them to write. And these are wonderful skills and talents. But it didn't help put food on the table. It didn't help the family grow together as a unit. It's fragmented the family. Now we're seeing the long-term effects of pulling the family apart, and they're doing it at a more ferocious pace because darkness knows that when the family unit, just like when that man that came into my life knew, because my mom was a single parent and struggling with 3 kids on her own, he knew, he could see she was vulnerable. And he took advantage of that. And governments are the exact same thing. They are weakening you with their education, with their rules, with their laws, with their taxes. Governments are weakening you and your family system. They're pitting black against white, yellow against brown, green against red. They're pitting the people against each other, creating barriers that did not actually exist. Well, they take your money and so-called educate your children. You can see by the degradation in global society that what they're doing is evil. It is not good. Please wake up and keep the truth alive. If this gets shut down or banned, or I get another, whatever I get, I don't care. But please share this information. Do not ignore sharing this information. We got like 60 people here. Share that information out. Share this information out, please. And I'm just seeing the 60 on YouTube and TikTok. I don't know how many of you are watching on Facebook, but you got to realize there are better businessmen to run our governments than there are politicians to run our governments. There are businessmen that are more capable of running our economies and our countries. Men who can get things done. Men who know how to make things happen in a really constructive and positive way that makes things grow. Look at Elon Musk. Elon for president, right? For the States, right? You look at somebody like that who gets shit done all the time, right? We need politicians who get it done. Get it done. We don't. We have politicians that get nothing done, keep you more in need and want, while promising to give you more, and even tell you so much. We'll even end your suffering for you. We'll alleviate your suffering for you. We'll take care of it all. You don't worry about a thing. And now you got to pay back all those loans you got from the government. Wow, what a surprise, right? And you also paid, by the way, you paid for all the vaccines, and you paid for all of the other things that they did. You paid for it. And now they make you feel bad. That's what they're doing. That's how they keep you in power. They use your guilt and your love and your goodness against you. Yes, we are all connected. Should we continue to protest against the government or just live in love and peace within ourselves? That's a great question. No, I'm being told that Master Jesus says it's really important to organize ourselves into communities again, to become organized in communities, to become really organized in communities that do not require government. And there's lots of off-grid communities being formed all over the world right now that, while they'll pay their basic taxes, they can sustain and maintain their own food supply. They can sustain and maintain the structures and infrastructure that they build for themselves. This is a real thing. We can do that in the cities, but the cities are all run by governments now, right? Most people can't even grow their own food in cities. The vast majority of people are dependent on government machinations, the food and agricultural ministries, the trucking industry. Governments are controlling your life. You got to realize that. They're not helping you, they're controlling you. But yeah, communities that are based in mutual respect and love and values and respect. It's okay to have different opinions, but when you force your opinions on somebody else, that's wrong. And again, I hope I'm not coming across in that fashion, but you need to hear this. You need to understand that you must learn to keep the truth alive. In that sense, I'm very, very clear about that. You got to recognize forming communities is a very powerful way to begin to take down governments by not engaging them, not stop electing these idiots. Let's find good businessmen that get stuff done and hire them to run the government instead of these politicians who just are basically just filling the trough of their own bank accounts with your money. That's what's going on. You know it. All of you know it. That's all they're doing. They're filling the troughs of their bank accounts with your money. Their homes, their cars, their luxury, right? Think about it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. And they do it by creating more problems that they have to solve. They create more problems to solve and tell you we'll solve the problems that we've created. And then you elect them again because they've told you they're going to solve the problems that they've created, but they haven't solved the problems they created. So they create more problems. Oh, and now we've got more problems to solve. And it becomes a vicious cycle. Most politicians are bad actors. Unless you're, a couple of good acting politicians that appear to be ready. But you have to understand politicians are chosen by other individuals that are operating our governments too, but I don't want to get into that right now. I'm almost done for today. I had to get all this out, guys. I just needed it's been contained in me for about 2 years. And when he came in and said, you have to keep the truth alive, William. You can't stay silent. And I said, okay. And so to that end, I hope I have articulated some ideas and information, even if only a handful of you are here to get it. I hope that you take it and share it and offer even the snippets that make sense to you. Because I don't know how much this makes sense. I'm just letting it kind of flow right now. And again, please join me on Wednesday for the Shortcuts for Your Soul edition. And again, we'll get back to our normal format on Wednesday. But I will not ignore the truth. And I will scream it from the rooftops. And this movie, The Sound of Freedom, please go and see this movie. Support that organization. Again, they're just like a speck of dust in a sandstorm. They need more resources. They need more people. They need an infrastructure because they're competing with governments. Understand, these guys aren't competing with traffickers. They're competing with the governments that allow the traffickers to move these children all over the place, millions of children. That's what's going on. Right? I don't care if I get flagged for misinformation. There's nothing misinformation. It's misinformation is what it is. People aren't getting it. And so I'm going to just let it flow. I want to thank Master Jesus for being present with us today. I'm so grateful and honest for your truth and your love and your compassion and your patience and your kindness. Right? But he will not make the same mistake this time. He will not make deals with the devil. He will not do that again, guys. And if you're listening to me, you devils, if you're listening, he won't make a deal with you this time. You got away with it once. You will not get away with it this time. Get that straight. Get prepared because he's coming. Got your number. I want to wish you all much, 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 much love today. And have yourselves so many questions. I love it, guys. Thank you. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel and my TikTok channel. Give it a thumbs up, like, share, whatever you can do. And I want to wish you all much, much love and have yourselves a great and joyful day. Bye for now, everybody.